Welcome back to another episode in our series of the National Electrical Code, where we break down complex code requirements into simple, easy to understand lessons for electricians at every level, especially those just getting started. Today, we're zooming in on a very specific and important part of the code, NEC 110.26A1, depth of working space. This is one of the most enforced and inspected electrical safety requirements in the entire NEC, and for good reason. Let's explore what it means, why it exists, and how it applies to the work you will do in the field. Before we get into the depth requirement, let's make sure we understand the basic idea. Working space is a clear area in front of the electrical equipment, like a panel board, switchboard, motor control center, or disconnect. This space is there so that electricians, technicians, or maintenance workers can open equipment doors, use tools safely, wear personal protective equipment or PPE, and most importantly, have room to retract or escape if something goes wrong, like an arc flash or a short circuit. Now let's focus on the specific code, NEC 110.26A1, depth of working space. Here's the key idea. The depth of the working space in the direction of live parts shall not be less than specified in Table 110.26A1, and it is based on the operating voltage of the equipment and what's directly across from it. Okay, let's break that down into everyday language. This rule tells us how deep the space in front of the electrical gear needs to be. That depth means how far you can stand back from the face of the equipment when you're in front of it. And it's not just a random number. It depends on the voltage of the equipment and the type of surface of the equipment directly across from it. To figure out how much working space you need, the NEC uses something called working space conditions. There are three conditions listed in the Table 110.26A1. Let's break them down. Condition 1. Unlikely to cause shock. This is when you have exposed live parts on one side and a wall or other non-electrical surface on the other. Example: a panel facing a concrete wall. The minimum depth is 3 feet or 36 inches. Condition 2. Possibility of shock. This is when there are exposed live parts on one side and on the other side has grounded parts like metal wall or other electrical equipment. Minimum depth is 3.5 feet or 42 inches. Condition 3. Both sides are live. This is when electrical equipment is facing each other, both potentially energized. For example, two panel boards face each other across the hallway in a room. The minimum depth in this situation is 4 feet or 48 inches. Basically, the higher the risk, the more space you need. So why does this code exist? The answer is simple: to prevent injuries and death. In the past, electrical equipment was often installed in tight, unsafe locations, closets, storage rooms, or even tight hallways with barely any space to work. If a worker needed to troubleshoot or repair energized gear, they would be pinned in, unable to move or escape during an electrical event like an arc flash. Not only was it uncomfortable, but it was extremely dangerous. This rule helps ensure that every qualified person who works on electrical systems has a safe, code-compliant space to operate it in, whether they're tightening a connection or replacing a breaker. Let's walk through a quick example. You're installing a new 108-volt panel board in a commercial building. It's going in a mechanical room, and there's a brick wall directly across from where the panel will be mounted. So what is a required working space depth? The panel board is 208 volts, which is under 600 volts. It's facing a non-electrical surface, a brick wall. That's condition 1, or 3 feet or 36 inches. Now let's say instead you're placing two panel boards facing each other across a narrow room. That would make it condition 3, and now you need at least 4 feet or 48 inches between the panels. If you only have 36 inches, it's not code compliant. If you're an apprentice or student, here are some practical tips when dealing with working space depth. Always measure before installation. Never assume there's enough space. Use your tape measure and verify. Don't forget about future accessibility. Will somebody be able to service or troubleshoot this gear safely? Watch for storage creep. Over time, people love to put boxes, shelves, and cleaning supplies in working space areas. That's a code violation. Never sacrifice safety for convenience. If something doesn't meet the space requirement, it needs to be corrected. Learn Table 110.26A1. It's a short and straightforward, but one of the most tested and inspected code sections. And that wraps up NEC 110.26A1, Depth of Working Space. To recap, it ensures there's enough room in front of the electrical equipment for safe work. The required depth depends on the voltage and what's across from the gear. The goal is to prevent accidents, shocks, and arc flash injuries. And as a new electrician, it's your job to make sure that space is measured, maintained, and respected on every job. Thanks for listening.